Welcome to the Joy Work Show, the podcast that goes beyond the surface of business, right to the heart, to explore the real joy and the stories behind success. Not just the moments of celebration, but the challenges that pave the way for them. Hiya, I'm Diane, and here we know that joy isn't just about the good times. Often, the greatest joy comes right after the greatest challenge. And today's episode feels like a real celebration of joy in its most colourful, expressive form. I'm joined by Carol Robinson, the founder of One of a Kind Club, a jewellery brand built on colour, confidence, and making people smile. Carol spent 20 years in advertising before taking the leap into building her own business and her dream life, driven by a desire to create something joyful, expressive, and deeply personal. In this conversation, we talk about self-acceptance, motherhood, identity, and the power of colour in how we feel and how we show up. She shares her journey through corporate life, personal loss, and the moments that led her to choose a path that is rooted in authenticity and self-expression. We also explore colour psychology, dopamine dressing, and why wearing what lights you up is never a frivolous choice. This episode is about creativity, courage, and giving yourself permission to be seen exactly as you are. But as always, it's so much better to hear from the guests themselves. So let's go. Hi, Carol, and welcome to the Joy Work Show. I am so delighted to have you here today. And as I say at the start of many episodes, when I don't know the person's full story, is I'm so excited about these episodes because I get to find out all about you exactly the same time as everybody else. So tell us who you are, what you do, and how you got here.
Sounds like a bit like a blind date, that one does, in terms of
Doesn't
hello,
it?
who are you? My name is Carol Robinson. I'm founder of One of a Kind Club, which is all about dopamine jewellery. I worked in the advertising world for 20 years and then moved to Norwich 7 years ago and set up the business because I want people to smile and feel good about themselves through the power of colourful jewellery. So that's a very brief version. I'm Carol, I'm a mum of two. I run a colourful, authentic jewellery business. I love making people smile. Kindness is really key. I'm now shopped in 50 shops around the UK with my jewellery and sell online. And I don't have a fashion background to me, but I just was sick and tired of people making me feel like I wasn't good enough, that I use colour to make people smile.
Amazing. For those of you that aren't watching this video and perhaps listen to it in audio, Carol does have fuchsia pink on and gorgeous rainbow chain link necklace and gorgeous pink earrings. So she's absolutely living, breathing
Yeah,
her
you've got to
brand.
leave the brand. Like someone saw me the other day wearing black and they were like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "No, I'm just being serious." And it's all about color psychology and we'll talk about this
Yes.
later, but it's all
Yes.
about kind of color makes you smile and actually life's too boring. So let's bring a bit
Exactly.
of fun and a bit of joy to the world.
Exactly. And as you know, I'm all about that. So take me back. What did it look like? What was the point that you got to? What was the trigger that was like, this is what I'm going to do and this is how I'm going to do it?
It took quite a long time. So, as a child, I made jewelry from when I was 8 years old, and I always liked the FIMO days of polymer clay in terms of being it. And I was always a bit quirky and didn't really ever fit in. And I was like Carol the Barrel at school, and I wasn't a size 8. And I grew up in the 90s where it was like Kate Moss was
Aren't kids just wonderful?
days, and Kate Winslet was called Fat, and
Yeah, I
and it's
remember the
so
days.
so over all that thing. And I went in I went to a private girls' school, and I was quite intelligent, but I always felt like I was quite stupid. Although I was in the top 1% IQ, it was just that I was different in terms of I wasn't an academic that was going to go on to become a doctor or a lawyer, but I didn't know really where I fitted in. And so I went off into university, did business management, worked in marketing, did all the things that I thought I should do. And I love my parents for giving me that grounding. And but I went on and I worked in the amazing world of advertising, where it's all so creative, so strategic, so like innovative, and I worked on rebranding like the most amazing brands and working on car brands. Yes, I am a bit of a car geek when it comes to thing. Although it was like I can refit an engine myself in terms of take it out and put it back in again.
Wow.
Good old D of E. But and then I kind of was like, you wanted to fit in, so you wore black, grey, blue, and like you just did that. And I was a larger person, but I kind of like I accessorized and showed my personality through jewellery. I went on like 20 different like courses and things like that. And then I had my son a little bit later, and then went back to the world. And it is fast paced, and there are younger, fresher, or people with different scenarios or different backgrounds. But I was always like, I want to be a mum. I want to be good at my job. I want to be bright, but actually I can't do it all myself. So I carried on. I changed from working advertising side to working client side, had a few roller coaster rides in terms of really good at doing, but I had like my self-confidence knocked along the way, and unfortunately had a miscarriage between my son and my daughter. But actually it's really, although it was a shockingly horrible thing and no one talks about it, and it was about bringing out taboos, but actually when I miraculously got pregnant again, I decided to move to Norwich and change my life and get out of everything. So I moved with a 3-day-old baby. And that is brave to do, but actually it was intelligent in terms of Norwich from London, where I lived for 20 years and loved the buzz and loved the thing. Norwich is so creative and independent. There's loads of advertising agencies. There's loads of amazing people, but people are kind, and it's also a bit cheaper than London. So you can have a bit of work-life balance in terms of affordability. And also I wanted to live nearer the sea because I grew up in Birmingham. But so I had Poppy, who is my miracle. And I'm not saying that in a woo-woo way. I'm just saying it in terms of she's brought so much joy
after
to
loss,
me. And when you don't think you can have something and you've had your confidence knocked along the way, you kind of go, actually, life's too short, life's full of joy. So I decided, I was feeding her in the middle of the night, and I went and I looked at all my colourful things that I wore that wasn't the corporate world, and I just went, why not now? I'm turning 40, let's just do it. Screw this, I'm just going to actually do something for me for the first time since I was a child, and like having that confidence and bravery. So set up the website because I'd got that background, and I'd also wanted to work on my own brand, which is harder than you think, because actually it's all eyes on you rather than, and being personal. Set it all up, made myself like this biggest dream of like setting it up a craft fair, launched, it was all amazing, got really positive feedback. Then 6 months later, down hit. But it meant that I had the world's greatest opportunity to send, jewellery goes out in large letter envelopes. So people were sending things to each other. And I digress, but it was, so Poppy, who's now 7 and crazy, and a little diva, and my son. Basically, I didn't have children later on to like not spend time with them. So they are my drive, but it's also my childhood that I want to do it for me, because actually too many people go into this corporate world or go into what the path that they're supposed to go, and actually the growing number of people female entrepreneurs, and also it is all about dopamine dressing and making people smile, and not enough people smile in the world.
No, exactly. I love that. But there's always so often, and this comes up in the podcast a lot, particularly because the guests have been women and female entrepreneurs up to this point. And I don't know if the joy puts the men off, but you know, that's where we're at the moment. And there's always a moment, a trigger, a trauma, a life event that propels. And I don't know if it's the fact that women need that and need to almost get to the point of it's now or never type feeling to then do it. And
I think we grew up in a world where like you just got on with things.
Yes.
My parents, and I love them for it because that's what they do, but I've done so much self-work on myself, and like I think especially in like the last year, perimenopause, like ADHD diagnosed and everything else like that, you kind of go, actually I am worth it, a bit like that advert that they had on the TV.
Absolutely.
But it's like, but I think
Well, they
it's
didn't pick that for no reason, did they?
I know,
When they were doing that
exactly. I
advert?
know. But it is full of like, and my word of the year is joy, hence why I'm on here today. And actually, I think we don't feel the feels. We just
Yeah.
get on with things.
Yeah.
So actually being aware, and I had some therapy last year and they did colour therapy. And it was really interesting because you go through your body going, what colours do you feel? And so it's like in my shoulders it was black and red because I was like really stressy at the time because something had happened. And then they were like, what does your head feel like? And I was like, it feels like a rainbow because there's so many different ideas. And like, what does your heart feel? Neon pink. It hasn't left 1995. But and I think we do need to there are triggers, but I think we've all got, I'm not saying move with a 3-day-old baby to set up a business, but actually we're all impacted by different things. We've all had a different upbringing. We've all had different things, and life is a roller coaster. So it's just being present and finding the joy and turning things from what could have been a really negative thing to being a really positive thing.
Yeah.
But it's also not being fake in the world of Instagram in terms of everything being perfect and everything being manicured. Like, I haven't straightened my hair for this and I haven't put on although that would have been the old me but actually I'm just myself. So, and believing in that most days.
Yeah, that's it. And I think, and that really blends into the way I feel about joy. And I know you've listened to a few of these episodes, so you'll know that I say that joy doesn't naturally come to me. It's not something that they wouldn't be like, oh yeah, Diane, yeah, joy. She is pure joy. That's not, I mean, friends and family laughed in a very supportive kind way, not in a kind of laughing at me, but they were kind of like, really? Joy, are you sure? But my point about joy is that it is brave, and to really own your own joy and follow your own joy. And this is the stories that I'm hearing from women over and over again. Is that,
and I think it's also about going, you always focus on what you were bad at.
yes.
As in, you always like went into your work appraisal and they were like, you could improve on that. And because I am a sensitive little flower, that was all. I didn't hear any of the good stuff. I just went, oh my God, I'm really bad at that, and that. Like, someone once said that I was a doer, not a thinker. And that's all I focused on. And I'm like, of course I'm a bloody thinker. But it was just the fact that I'm really good at organising. And when things are in a mess, I'm really good at like clearing it all up. But I just went, oh God, I can't think. I'm not clever.
That's it. But I think to follow your joy, for you to make that decision that I've had my children, I've had them later in life, I want to spend time with them, my life isn't going in the direction I want it to go in, I'm moving. Or, somebody else would have been like, oh, 3-day-old baby, I'm not doing it. I've got to pay the bills, I can't, got to do it. There would have been we can put as many obstacles as we want between us and our joy that we possibly can, because it might not work out. Because to really follow your joy, to really get where you want to go and what that dream life looks like, you have to put your head above the parapet and you need to take some risks.
Yeah.
And you might make some people unhappy.
Yeah. And there was a thing of like, everyone's like going, you're crazy. You're moving like hours away from like London and your friends and like
the whole world, the sense of the universe.
And like, my mother-in-law probably won't ever listen to this, but she was like, how's the hobby going? When I moved, in terms of, I was like, no, it's actually a commercial business. Like, I'm stocked in 50 shops. I sell online. I do events. So like, I'm going on podcasts. I've been featured in the press, and it's just little old me.
Yeah.
And we all do put ourselves down, and we don't look at like what our achievements are, but you've got to have that passion. I've also had people go, well, you've got the marketing and advertising background. It must be so easy to do your own marketing. And I'm like, it's really easy objectively telling someone else how they can spend their money. But if you're doing it all, a majority of yourself, and like, I've got a small team around me now, but it's also going like, I'm not an expert. I'm not a strategist I don't know all the insight. Like, I'm curious, and like, I go out there. But you were saying about people don't find you joy. Like,
yes,
I'm not always, although I come across as like positive and confident and everything else like that, I do have my wobbles. I do have my days where I go, like, I was at top drawer this week, and it was very much like, everyone's so much better than me, and they've all completely utterly smooth. Whereas the feedback that I got from them was like, you're owning it, you're doing it your way, and actually it's not the normal way in some aspects, but you're loving it, and the joy that comes out of you is amazing.
Yeah, but it's that thing of like, I think we all have wobbles and we all have. I mean, my background is direct sales and marketing in the UK. I am a strategist. I can, that's kind of what I can help businesses with. But actually, it's not the same when you're doing it for yourself. And there's a reason why business coaches, the great ones, exist, because we all need that support. We all need that push. We all need that drive. We all need somebody that is in our corner that might not be the usual support network, because our usual support network isn't building a business.
No,
So,
and I've got the most random like mentors or like people that have inspired. Like the first person that I took on was someone to do my content, because although I can talk the talk, I can't stand editing reels and like making it all look smooth. Although I'm a designer, like I'd rather be doing the talking rather than doing that, because it takes me with like my crazy brain like 15 hours longer than anybody else to do it. So pay someone who's got the skills.
Yeah, exactly that. And it's it's just not as easy when you're doing it for yourself. People
and
think,
you do have to be brave to like to pay for things and
yes,
go what to be able to grow, and it is all about growth. And like sometimes you have to invest in business and in yourself to get it to the next level.
Absolutely. One thing I wanted to kind of pick up on is that you're obviously a product-based business. Would I be right in saying that you're definitely building like a personal brand?
Yeah, it's definitely a personal brand. So the story is, and it's hard at times because everyone kind of goes, "Well, you're the face of it and you're everything." But actually, I sell jewelry. It's a tactical thing in terms of earrings, bracelets, necklaces, but it brings people joy. So there is more to it in terms of having those conversations. So last year I gave a talk about dopamine dressing at John Lewis. And so actually there's much more to it. But actually when people go, if you went out and said, I want to talk about dopamine dressing, how do you prove it? And actually it's little things like adding on a colourful necklace or adding on a little pop of pink or something that makes you smile. So is really about growing that business, and you never know where it's going to go to. Like the dopamine dressing talk at John Lewis, or like pop-ups or talks or features in magazines, have all been about telling my story because people want to relate to it, but they also want to see insight and intelligence or like a narrative to it. So it is a strategy in terms of I am quite bright, I'm quite curious. And so it's using trends. And I'm not saying following trends like Pantone colour of 2026, white, what on earth is that talking about? But I can use it from a point of view. It's not just me going, here's a beautiful necklace. It's like actually the psychology and the insight and the feels of how that makes you feel actually is not just about being the trend of black, red and animal print like last year. It's actually owning it yourself.
Yeah. Well, I think it's that thing, isn't it, with the dressing, because I don't think I follow, in terms of the way I dress, I don't think I particularly follow trends. I'm not the most colourful dresser in the world. But thinking about this podcast, and I've done another podcast with a stylist as well. I've had quite a few off-air conversations with her about different things and dressing for confidence and things like that. And I am very much, and anybody in my life would tell you that if I've got an event coming up, or if I've got something coming up that I'm going to, or even like how my week's structured, I very much think about my clothes. Like I very much think about what I'm going to wear, what earrings I'm going to have in, what will my hair be doing that day, what will be. And it's not that I am particularly the most stylish or into trends or into looking a certain way, but the most important thing for me is that I feel like me and me, and it's that comfort thing as well of feeling like yourself, so that no matter what the day throws at you, you can kind of deal with it. But I know with like, when you go.
I can say that's why the business is called One of a Kind Club, because we're not all bright rainbows like me, and it is about having that little pop. It could be the fact that you're wearing like an animal print bracelet, for example.
Yeah, but this is what it is for me, because as much as I think I'm quite a neutral dresser, like my favourite colours are black and white to wear. It used to be a joke with my friends that I love a white t-shirt, like anything to do, but I might have a leopard print blazer over it, or I might have red shoes,
And that's the whole thing is like one of my friends, Hayley Southwood, she is quite naturally dressed, as in that's her style, but she doesn't leave the house without bright red lipstick. And that is her signature pop, and that's just
Yeah.
confidence. Whereas someone might go, it's colourful Carol, and look at you like you're a nutter. Whereas actually it's about adding the little things. And actually dopamine dressing is a neurotransmitter. So if you see colour, it makes you smile, which makes me smile because you're smiling. And that's a basic, like, non-psychologist science
Yeah.
version of it. And actually, if I make one person smile that's not smiled today, that's my vision and my values achieved for the day.
I love that. And I do, when I see you, I have to admit, it does bring a complete smile to my face when I logged onto this. And those of you who don't know, we're recording on Riverside, and it kind of pops up once you've been in the lobby. The person pops in front of you. And not only did you pop in, you popped. Like, I saw you, I saw everything about you, and it is such a presence.
And it is fun, that thing. I mean, I worked in advertising for 20 years, and some of it was more corporate than others. So it was and I was 3 stone heavier than I am now. And so it was black, grey and blue is all you could wear. You wore the suits in like the 2000s, and that's what you wore, and you fitted in. And I don't want to fit in anymore. And so it's actually about wearing the things that you feel, and also what you feel comfortable in. Like, we're not, like, I can't remember the last time I wore high heels. Like, I live in my Saucony bright coloured trainers because I've got size 8 feet, and I lived in Doc Martens when I was a teenager. It was that thing of what's comfortable rather than tottering around in high heels. And love the fact that we're in the world where you can wear whatever you want most of the time. And I do dress up for, like, if I'm speaking on stage or doing things, and like everyone laughs that they see colourful Carol coming down the road in Norwich. But that's just, I like making other people smile.
Yeah, well, that's it. And I think when I look at, or when I think about women that I think are stylish, and certainly when I think of women who would be seen as older, their style is about them owning it. So whether it's colourful, whether it's classic cuts, whether it's, whatever it is about them, it's about that they look confident. The confidence comes with the comfort. Like, when I'm talking about comfortable, I'm not talking about, because I think there's this thing that style can't be comfortable.
Yeah.
That you
and
can.
Also, like, I went on a workshop with Google, like, my 3 words, and Alex, who's a stylist and a writer, and she is absolutely amazing. She's written loads of books, and she's a good friend of mine. But she said, what 3 words are you? And I went on a workshop with her, and it was basically, mine was like dopamine, kind of quirky, but not in a mad nutter sense, and colourful. And so it's like a pop of something, with a pop of quirky in terms of whether that's the animal print belt or whether that's the, like, bit of metallic bling in on your coat. But it's so interesting to see that people actually found their inner thing. And I think we're all on a spectrum. I'm sick and tired of people being told. And that's like, I've set up a Facebook group on One of a Kind Club where people can share those stories and people can talk about it. And that's what the brand is, more of a personal brand, going back to your question earlier on, in terms of it's sharing those stories and being able to talk. Like, I know that you always rock the gold hoops, and that's one of your statement things, but it's like it's wearing what you want and owning your space, which is so important.
Absolutely. And it's these things, like you mentioned, the gold hoops. It's almost, I don't even think about it anymore. I don't even realise it. If somebody said to me about my style, I wouldn't even bring it up. But I'd like you to try and find a video in the last 12 months where I don't have them in. And even this morning, we laughed this morning, I went downstairs getting ready before I got the kids ready for school. And I was like, I've not put my earrings in. I feel naked. I don't have my earrings in. That to my partner. Remind me when I go, once I've done the school run, that I need to come back and I even hate doing the school run without them in. I will do it because it's a necessity. But I was like,
everyone says to me, because I'm like, I feel like I'm modelling my collections the whole time. They're like, are you okay? And I'm like, no, I've got 2 kids as well. So it's like the school morning is fueled on caffeine and panic. But it's just like, someone was the other day was like, you're not wearing a necklace. What is going on?
It was so funny. I think at the minute it would be if I wasn't wearing my gold hoops or wearing some form of leopard print, because currently my school coat of choice is a big, massive, kind of like a dry robe type thing. But it's not dry robe, but it's all leopard print. So that's just what gets thrown on. And
mine's green camouflage with neon pink on it. So we're just twinning. So, but we're all a spectrum. And I think that's the thing, is like, not everyone should follow like the styles or what they should be wearing, or like, you can't wear that because you're that size or whatever. Wear the things, like, there are things that flatter. there are colours, and like colour is a feeling, and it's really interesting to like dive into like how colours make you feel. And like I can go into really deep in terms of like Freud's psychologists and like iceberg things in terms of conscious and subconscious and unconscious, and like what colours feel, because that fascinates me. But actually it's a gut feeling of actually I'm just going to put the animal print on because that's my masking, and that's like my armour for the day.
Well, I think that's what people think. And when I say that I'm not particularly flamboyant dressed or anything like that, and they're like, you have leopard print jeans, you have a leopard print coat, you've got red boots. And I'm like, yeah, but that doesn't feel like that to me. That feels safe to me.
Yeah.
That feels like how I want to look, how I want to set. Whereas you'd never see me wearing something flowery.
No, exactly.
And somebody else, that would be, or that they love that and what that makes them feel like, and what they, so it's so interesting. But going back to the personal brand thing, because this is a conversation I have a lot with product-based business owners who they cannot, not that they cannot, maybe that's the wrong word, but they think that they're like, well, my product-based business, what does me building a personal brand have to do with my product? And these are people who actually, they've not come up with a product just to make a load of money. These are people who love their product, who are building their product-based businesses because it's a passion and a love and something like a life's work. What would you say to them when you're building this personal brand that you are synonymous with?
I think lots of people go on, like, everyone goes, you're so confident, you can get in front of the camera and you can talk to people, and like you keep it real. You walk down the Prince of Wales Road and that's you. Whereas actually, what's that got to do with things? So it's having the confidence to put your story out there and be able to talk about it. I think I'm quite fortunate of having, I work, although I'm highly creative, but I've worked on the business side of it for so long. So sometimes I get imposter syndrome from the creativity bit of it. But I go, actually, what's the things that I love? What do people love? What's the feedback that I've got from things? And so I can do it. But it's about telling a story about yourself. It's like, actually, it's for everyday people who care, who've grown up in this thing, and like using a user persona and going, actually, what are their needs and their pain points, and what are their problems that your product can solve? Whereas a lot of people who've, like, I've got amazing, talented, like beautiful artisan people who go, my product sells itself. And so I don't have to tell the story behind it. Whereas I'm like, actually, how are you going to get out there? How are you going to be remembered? Like, the products are beautiful, and like, you might not know what you're like, why are you selling that for £25 when it's taken you 4 days to make? And so it's not knowing your worth about it. So you've got to have that bit of commercial element and artisan element to go to know what sells and knows what's productive and like profitable. But actually talking your story about, like, I went out and said, when I first launched, it was because of the big change of moving with a 3-day-old baby. And I don't focus that much on it anymore, but actually that made people go, God, she's really brave.
Yeah,
and like
but that's because your brand story changes. Just because you told one story however many years ago, it can adapt and it can change. The same way some of the household brands that we know now all started as a personal brand with a person at the front of it telling their story.
Yeah. But it's also the thing of like, I've got a lot of network with people in the world, because I still do markets and still do events and still people, and they're like going, but actually, why do you make more of that? Like multicolored necklaces. I'm like, because they sell and they're not a bespoke artisan piece. Whereas they're like, oh, we couldn't go into things that were mass produced. And I said, well, it's not mass produced. I'm not making millions of them. I wish I was making millions, because then I
would, if given the opportunity. Yeah.
Or like, why do you outsource some of the production of some of it? And I'm like, because it's about return on investment and spending the right time. And they're like, well, that makes it too commercial. And I'm like, you've got your passion. It depends on what your goals are and your objectives are. And I'm not saying that it's sad, but actually I am really driven. And I'm going to turn that into a positive. It's not sad, it's amazing. But it's about having that self-belief to go, I don't want to just be at a local village hall. I want to be stocked. And like, I've grown my journey in the last 2 years and I'm now stocked in over 50 shops, including a high street retailer. I pinch myself whenever I get another order from those people, because I'm like, it's just me.
Yeah.
And so actually it's about telling your story, and people buy from people. They will remember that quirky person in like Holt Market who stood there in the rain, who's wearing neon pink because she wants and has a smile on her face, rather than the person who's reading a book because they think, and I do see this at market stalls. I even saw it at like a massive trade show event that costs thousands of pounds. Someone's reading their book. They're not engaging with their customers.
Just don't understand it. And as somebody from a sales and marketing point of view, I walk around these shows, local fairs that I go to with my kids, that I'm not in there in a business sense at all. And I'm like, go to buy something and they don't even look up. And I'm like, I do not understand. Like, I know there's all different personalities. And what I find sad and tragic about it is there's so many brilliant product-based business owners, crafters, artisans, those types of things. And what I find sad, and I find it sad in both worlds, to be perfectly honest, but in that world, I find it sad that they see business and commerciality as the poison and the enemy.
Yeah,
and then
indeed.
I find it sad in the business world that people feel that they can't be creative and they can't do things a bit differently.
Yeah, and that's why I'm trying to bridge that gap.
Yeah.
But it is about putting connections out there. And everyone says you've got so many like amazing connections. And I think lockdown actually helped me a lot because we went from being in a face-to-face world to being in an online world. And because I already had my website, and there was, I can't even remember what the platform was called, where you basically just talk to each other, and then like in a room, there was like an app that basically.
I think I wasn't part of it, but was it Clubhouse?
Yeah, Clubhouse was absolutely amazing.
I've heard about it since.
Yeah, because you got to talk on stage with like stylists and celebrities, and you just end up, and like everyone was equal. There was no like, you could just put on your big girls pants and like Bridget Jones style and just go out there and like talk to people, and also having like I sold my things from my like IKEA sofa bed on my online markets, but I got like, I was talking to Amy from Retail Huddle at Top Drawer, and she was like going, the journey that you've got on in 6 years is amazing. Because I remember you selling your things from your IKEA daybed to now being at Top Drawer. And that was just because you've had the commerciality and the strategicness. And like, that's just come from like guts, also a bit of being really, really chatty to people because you never know who you're going to meet, but also keeping to your like mission and vision, and never saying no, although I've started saying no a bit recently.
Yeah, but I think it's just, and I love that story because it is the proof is in the pudding. And it is just that sense of those two worlds can live next to each other.
Yeah.
Like, I can be driven and income orientated and love sales and want a big income life, but I can also do a podcast about joy that I do for the love of it, and to have these stories and to bring these stories out, and like you, try and bring some more worlds together for them to realize that we're not all that different.
Yeah. And I've been on events where people have gone, where did you get the money from?
Yeah.
And I said, well, I started the business with like £2,000 of my own money. And now it's worth quite a lot more than that. They're like, oh, you didn't get funded, or like, not mummy and daddy didn't pay for it. But I think there's a lot of the world that's either, although that did come from a man, and I'm not sexist at all, but you know, me like typical question.
Yes,
it's just like,
absolutely.
actually,
you couldn't have possibly done it without somebody backing you to do it.
Yeah, exactly, which really frustrates me. And I think it's just also like, the fashion world is an interesting world. Everyone's like going, jewellery is really competitive, and it's really like, there's big brands. There's a whole debate about where it's made and in terms of buying it, and like, but it's actually about going, I'm just going to stay in my lane. I'm going to do it my way. And if it takes me a little bit longer because I don't have all the contacts in the world, but actually it's about, you never know who you're going to see and whose path you're going to align with. And I'm like, I'm now stocked in a high street retailer with 15 shops, a couple of department stores, and mentioned by a few famous people along the way. So it's good.
Yeah, it is good. But it's because you are the love and the passion and the following your creative artisan roots, and then having the commerciality to know that you need to have a few things that you can do easier than your, more bespoke pieces for individuals that you can turn over to grow your business and get it out there and get more people buying, individual pieces of jewelry and things, and not just quick fashion. It's so important. It's that piece that there's more businesses that could be more aligned than they have, and that every industry has its
Yeah.
nuances.
And it is focused, and it is like being true in terms of its colourful jewellery, and it's like it's adding a spark of joy.
Yeah.
So love what I
Exactly.
do.
Exactly. Well, as you know, I ask everybody 3 joy questions in every episode, and I do give you a little bit of heads up so you can prepare the answer. So the first one is the joy spotlight, a favourite thing that has shaped your life, business, or work.
This is the one that I was like, there's so many amazing different things, but I think the one that I'm most proud of is meeting Charlotte. So the Charlotte from the Charlotte Edit. So was a customer that I met at Holt, who's now a friend. We just got chatting, and like she's an amazing stylist in Cambridge. Just like had a bit of banter with her, and like never thought anything of it. And she's basically talked about the fact that she was like, "Oh, I've got this client who's doing a catwalk and needs some blue and silver stuff. Send me some stuff." So I sent her some stuff, not really knowing anything about it. Ended up being my jewellery got featured on the Boots Hearing Care relaunch when they relaunched the brand, and on the catwalk was Tasha Gorey, the first ever deaf contestant on Love
Yes.
Island. I had to Google that
Yep.
because I'm not into Love Island. Well, I do watch it, but like
I did watch, I've not watched all the series, but I did watch the series that Tasha was on.
yeah, and it also had Susanna from Trinny and Susanna, and so I'm a, like I
Amazing.
grew up in the 90s where everything was like
Yes.
I'm curvy, so it has
Yes.
to be a wrap dress. So, but to feature on that in terms of being bold, standing up for being one of a kind club, and actually really kind of having that color pop. So they were all wearing quite neutral black and white and blue things, but it was actually they wanted the blue and silver because that's obviously the branding for it.
Yeah.
So I was just super proud that from a random conversation at a market to becoming a friend with like the Charlotte Edit. So, and you never know, we're like being kind and being, she's like going, I just want something that will pop. And I immediately thought about you. So that was a life-changing moment for me.
But it's this, and again, the proof is in the pudding. You know, it's, you do not know when, and I talk to people when they were talking about branding a lot, like you do not know when you step outside your front door.
No.
Who you're going to see and speak to and know. So you need to live and breathe your brand. So your brand has to be, when everyone talks about this authenticity and that to be authentic, yeah, you do have to do that, but it has to come naturally. Because if you're talking to somebody who's next to you on the bus or in the coffee shop or walking down the street or on the school run or on a Zoom call that you jump into, or when you're out with the kids, you know, you do not know who that person could be, what part of your story that they could become part of.
Yeah, and it is about being kind. I think the world's so like everyone's so selfish and on their like driven things. Like I had I'm not a sucker for sad stories, but like there was an amazing girl at a festival last year who'd had such a like tragic like experience, and I gave her a cherry necklace, for example, and she was like, "You've just made my day." And her mum came back the next day, and she's like, she bought loads and loads of stuff, and she was like, "You had made my daughter, who was going through a real like bullying situation at school, and you just like you brought joy to her." And it was just like it was something that it only cost me a couple of pounds to make, but it was just like, and now her mum is like one of my most loyal customers, and that's not the reason why I did it. I did it to bring joy. And I think the reason why I say about the Susanna and from Trinny and Susanna and Tasha Gorey is I didn't think I'd ever have that opportunity.
No.
And that came from someone that about building connections and like touching base with people to check in whether they're okay. And like, but that is just like you can't pay for that from a point of view of marketing. I wouldn't have ever approached Boots and gone, could I do this? Or approached like the event organisers. But actually there's sometimes you just go with your gut and send things, send a big parcel of blue and silver things, because that's what it was all about.
Yeah, but that's it. And you never know. And like you say with Tasha, like you didn't watch Love Island, you wouldn't think, but actually her whole point about going on to Love Island, and this is about the opportunities that present themselves, was to be representative of the deaf community. And now she's gone on to represent that more. She's not doing Love Island stuff like that anymore, whatever anybody thinks of Love Island or not. But she does Strictly presentation on the It Takes Two. She's advocating for the deaf community and being that and walking stages and that's how we now know. So it's about taking these opportunities, and when these opportunities come up, making the most of them that you possibly can.
And it is those things of like actually putting yourself in front of people. And like, I think I went to this, I don't even know where this is coming from, but it feels right to say it. But like, I grew up near the Birmingham NEC and it snowed really badly one year, and it was the clothes show live, which is amazing in terms of I always loved going on it. So I went with my aunt. It's like my dad drove us halfway there. We got stuck in the snow, so we walked the rest of the way. And because not many people had turned up, they said, "Oh, we need some models from the audience." And I was 10 or 11 years old at the time. My aunt shoved my hand up in the air. Like, this wasn't like, and actually I got to model with like Karen Franklin and Jeff Banks, and like on the catwalk with these like 6'4", like, well, they felt like 6'4" because I was like 5'4" at the time, like models, and they couldn't find me a size 8 pair of shoes, so like I wore these bright pink trainers, and it was just like it was such an amazing experience, and you never know, like I would never have put my hand up for that. And like I'm seeing Karen Franklin at the Spring Show next week. She's talking about entrepreneurism, and she's all about kind of like the older people but doing it her own way. She was always the one with a big streak of colour in her.
Yeah, well, as soon as you said Close Show Live, I immediately pictured Karen Franklin, because I remember as a really young girl thinking and looking at Karen Franklin and thinking, you look like a woman, but you don't look like how necessarily society thinks women should look. But you're not dressing as a man.
No.
But you're not, and it was just that, and it was, I suppose that was kind of that fierceness, that thing, and I was like, that's kind of style to me, because it was her. There wasn't anybody dressing like her at that time, even though she was very of the time at the same time. But yeah, it was very, and I just thought that's how I'd want to look as a woman.
Yeah,
Not
and
necessarily wear her
follow
clothes.
her journey. It's so amazing, like from an editorial perspective, and like I'm, when you kind of like got a business crush on somebody.
Yeah,
it's kind of like that. It's a bit like but I think it's about standing out there. And I'm not like, Guan is an amazing person in terms of he brings his life and the fun and the party, but also like the whole styling things in terms of making people feel good about themselves. And Holly Tucker from like who set up Not on the High Street, who now runs Tucker and Co. Like I got a shout out.
And the colour that she now wears,
and the colour that she
wears, and just
So it is about following those people who are driven. Like Sophie Robinson's done an amazing dopamine interior collection with Donnell, which is like keeping it real, but actually she's very strategic and insightful, but also knows her colours. And like I loved her. She recently went to Marrakesh, and I was like, I just want to go on holiday with you.
Yeah, when you say Sophie Robinson, I think about those deep, deep blues.
Yeah.
That she does, like really rich colours.
Yeah, and colour psychology is really, really interesting in terms of why we are drawn to different colours, in terms of blue being calming and like, and I've just launched Positivity from Waste, which is about recycled plastic and turning it into everyday jewellery. And I've actually put that royal blue onto my cards because it's actually, I want it to be different from everything else that's quite white with a pop of colour. So, and it was really, I get really fascinated by which colours I should be doing on all my collections. It's whether you love it or whether it's what goes with what people would wear. And sometimes you have to have that value of going, what do I love versus what would my ideal client like. So
that's interesting. Well, maybe that moves us on to your Inspired by Joy, a book or mentor that is stuck with you.
So Little Book of Colour, which I'm going to do a plug from. I don't know whether you can see that, but Karen Haller. So I didn't think I'd even do like very well at science at school, but I love psychology and I love colour. I think it was when I was on my maternity leave, I got bought it by my husband because I'd read like bits and pieces out of the library, and I was like, I really want to know more. And I was on a journey to like work out the old corporate me to not new me, but finding myself. And like Karen Haller is an applied colour psychologist. Sounds very fancy, but she takes like the lessons of going actually finding out what really, really works for you and reflects your personality. And so she looks at the science, she looks at culture, she looks at a lot of other things. And it's like colour makes us think and feel, and so actually using it for our benefit and our well-being. And it's such an interesting book that you can just grab bits out of it. So I worked in the corporate world where we had our red, green, yellow, blue profiling. And if you were blue, you were logical. If you were green, you were mother, as in earthy. And if you were yellow, you were very creative. And if you were red, you were basically the boss, is the way that, which I agree and disagree. And I'm a bit of a rainbow of all of those things. But actually looking at colour and going blue really makes you calm. There's different shades of it. Green is all about being centered and like the earth, and like yellow is all about happiness and joy, and red can be about danger, but it can also be about fiery. So I constantly like flick in and out. It's a bit like a Pinterest board for me or whatever, but it's just like you flick in and out of it. And I think it's just using that scientific psychology as well as gut feeling, as well as looking at the feeling and like finding joy from things. And like dopamine dressing is quite a trend at the moment, and I wrote an article 5 years ago about it in a Norfolk magazine. But it's like you can interlink things, and it's about finding your joy. And like it's really fascinating to look at what your favorite color is and what it means for you, rather than what it is and like does it bring memory. So I wear a lot of neon pink because it reminds me of 1995 or 1997 in Ibiza, or like in the kind of like in the 80s where we had like those cycling shorts with the bright like illuminated stripe, that we didn't care what we looked like in our shell suits and our cycling. I am showing my age now, unfortunately.
I'm right there with you. I had the shell suits, I had the cycling shorts, I had the puff bubble skirt attached to the cycling shorts.
We're all there, but it's like, but that brings you joy. And I think it also, the other fascinating thing about the book is when you're a child, you wear the primary colours or the rainbow of colours because you don't care. It's about your pure joy in colour. Then you start wearing, we've all done this, we all got to teenagehood and we all wore black.
Yeah.
We didn't want to stand out.
Not quite moved away from that, but
But we wanted to be seen to be more mature. And then you come out the other end and you find your spectrum. You find what you feel is good. And like actually bringing colour makes other people smile, but it's also like partly because I can now find clothes now that I've lost a bit of weight, or there's more colourful clothes, all sizes now in the shop. It's not about hiding. It's about standing out for me. And that's my drive. But it's just it's so interesting to see why a lot of people go, oh, I couldn't wear, like I see people and they go, couldn't wear what you wear. I'm like, why not? Like, not brave enough. Don't want to stand out. And I'm like, but you're a highly intelligent lawyer or whatever. And they were like, but that's what we do. We want to hide so that we observe everyone else. And I'm like, that's fine. But you wear pink sequins boots on a weekend. I'm thinking about one particular friend of mine. And that's her signature. So it's just really, really fascinating.
No, it is really fascinating because, like I say, like as you're talking, I'm like thinking of things in my wardrobe, my own branding, and things that I am drawn to. The hot pink is definitely a thread through everything that I do. So I guess that must be the. I've never really thought about it like that. It must.
So isn't it how it makes you feel, and like. You can look at like the subconscious and the unconscious, but actually it's about bringing memories. So there is a reason why we like it. There's a reason why like a lot of sequins and like it brings me joy when I see Sophie Ellis Bextor. I'm not a very good kitchen dancer, but I do it in my own. It brings me joy anyway to dance. And actually, the fact that she's flamboyant and wears what she wears, and like, fair enough, she's got an amazing stylist, and like, but there's so many people that you see that just bring joy in what they wear and add colour. Like we mentioned, Holly Tucker, she's always very, very colourful. It's to get to have standout, but it's also to bring you like that joy of what is your brand, whether you're a person, and like how do you want to feel today. So if you're having a really rubbish day, you can add a bit of neon pink. I'm gonna give you some heat.
See, I don't think I would ever wear. I don't think I wear neon pink. It would be a flash.
Yeah, it would just be, and that's all it is. It can be just a little pop.
It would be a shoe or a stripe or a thread or something like that. I wear a lot of sequins. I wear a lot of, but they would be in black or
Yeah.
silver or metallic.
But that's all about,
Uh,
and it is about texture and like how that makes you feel. So like a lot of mine are really, really smooth. And so
yeah,
although someone could wear a black version of this, that's really, really tactile. I've got rubber
yeah,
necklaces because I've got quite a lot of customers who are allergic to metal, and they just love, loads of people like fidgeting with them because it's
yeah,
adding that bit of personality to them. Or they go, actually, I want a fierce day today. I'm going to wear some red, a bit like my
yes.
friend Hayley from Southwood Social. It's very much about that's red is her signature, pink is
Hmm.
mine, and but yeah, it just brings out you, and I think we shouldn't be hiding. And a lot of people, especially in their like 40s, who are going through a lot of changes in their lives, or like health, wealth, well-being, parents, kids, everything else like that. It's about finding your comfort and like actually finding what works for you. And I don't
Hmm.
think we're not in the society where everyone has to wear like Levi jeans and a black or an Adidas top, which is kind of what I grew up with, or like you had to wear a skinny black dress to go out. Like I can't imagine wearing heels now to anything.
No, I still like. I haven't been in them for a while because of the children, but I do hope because heels were my signature for a while. But then, and I'm really short. So we need all the help. Even when I wear the flat shoes,
So
I still need something most of the time.
platform
Um,
trainers are the way forward.
Exactly. But then I was in London at the weekend and I still had on like my flat boots, but they do give me quite a bit in it. So it is just finding the things that work for you now. But I think it is finding that comfort. And I think, but it's comfort from a confidence point of view, from a this is what makes me feel good point of view. This is I can show up in the world in what I'm wearing today, no matter where it takes me, and finding that. And I think finding your own signature style can make getting dressed a lot more fun and less exhausting, because there's two things that exhaust me during the day is thinking what I'm going to wear and thinking what I'm going to make for dinner. And if I can have
Well, don't even get
hacks,
me started on the dinner thing. It's my daily thing. Whereas actually, I'm quite like, and I think people think that I'm a bit because they're like, oh, you could grab everything out of your wardrobe. Like I had a Charlotte edit came to my house and we did some collaborative content last year, and she was like, "Hey, everything in your wardrobe goes with each other." I'm like, it doesn't, but I could throw on anything together and it probably would work
well,
because
yeah,
I
because it's you and it's your style.
yeah, I know exactly. Whereas actually, but she kind of gave me some really good tips about how to like make your waist look smaller and how to tuck things in and stuff like that. Which is like, because I'm not really a girly girl, so it's like how to make your body look better than it is, which is all great when you've got like you've had two kids and you're
Yeah,
perimenopausal.
absolutely. Absolutely, absolutely. I'm here for all that. And it is about that. And it's not about necessarily making us smaller in terms of this is how I need to fit. But again, it's having that confidence, because who doesn't want to look a bit better? Do you know what I mean? When I get
And
up
if,
in the
and if
morning,
you and if you're happy, like other people are happier.
yeah. And you walk differently and you talk, it's that thing when you talk about weight of women and losing weight and whether you need to be small or whether you need to be this. There is women in all shapes and sizes, but when they are comfortable in what they are wearing, whether it's bright blue and pink or whether it's muted colours with a little bit
Yeah,
of gold or whatever, but when they love it and they walk into a room, and I'm not meaning show offy, like, walking in like they own the place. I just mean walking in like, hi, there's my friends, there's a person I'm meeting, there's whatever's happening, and they just look comfortable in their own skin.
yeah, and
And
I think
that's kind of how we all want to feel.
and it's also about being like approachable in terms of not being like alienating. And so like I walked into a room the other day and I felt really conscious because I was the only one wearing bright. Everyone was wearing like black or like beige. I'm like, and I love the fact that that's them, but I was just like going, this is me. I don't. But it made me kind of like I went back to being at like secondary school where I was like the only girl who wore the crazy
Yeah.
clothes rather than the blue denim jeans and black jumper. I did
Hmm.
do that for a bit because I wanted to fit in, but I wore it with some colourful jewellery.
Yeah, of course, of course. But it just tells you what rooms to be in and what rooms not to be in, doesn't
Yeah,
it, as well? It's when you know and you find your tribe and you find your people, those are the places to keep showing up in. So, what would be your joy killer, the thing you would like to see removed from the world?
you're probably going to laugh at this, but I'm going to ban the beige, and it's not to do with what you said about wearing it, but it's just like you go into clothes shops and you go into interior things, and they are soulless. There's just no vibrancy to it. And it's like powdered white was the Pantone colour of
I have
2026,
to admit, I wasn't.
or like dark brown. And I'm like, it's lovely and it suits some people, but it doesn't do anything for my skin tone or anything else like that. And I am very lucky that I can add colour to anything and it works. So I kind of mimic that from a trend perspective. But it's just like, actually, it just brings you down where there's no colour. And like my house, everyone thinks it's a complete utter rainbow. I've got like my duck egg blue wall here. I have got amazing colourful art thing because I'm doing this rather than the chaos of the rest of the house and studio. But it is just like about my ick. I want to ban that where it's like everything and everyone goes, oh, we have to wear this or you have to do that or I have to have no life. Also, it was particularly apparent in like autumn, winter last year where they go, oh, colours are only for summer. Bright colours in shops are only for summer. I'm like, wear it all year round. It's not to do with that. And so I think that they should always be like, I respect brands like they were used, like the United Colours of Benetton were always a rainbow or like, and like I go to things and I see the fact that it's very classy and very calming and everything else like that. But I'm like, add some colour into things or like mix and match. So it's not about necessarily banning it, but it's about mix it with other things. It's a bit like I mix Primark to like vintage luxury.
Yes.
So there's lots of different things in there, but it's about what works for me. And so actually banning the beige where the colour it brings you joy or just having a pop of it.
And I think it's that thing as well because like I love neutrals. It is definitely where I kind of go to with a lot of the things that I wear, but there'll always be a pop of something else. So I do now realise that. But I think it's that thing of I don't do it because I'm told that's what I've if you look back, it's what I've always worn. But I think it is that thing and then everybody begins to look the same.
Yeah. And like I was looking on Instagram the other day and like for some reason like all my feed came out really washed and it made me really miserable.
Yeah.
And then I kind of like started searching my like favorite account, like joyful accounts. And I do like the whole thing of like I am, this year is all about trying new things. So I'm going to be doing like cold water, ice water dipping and whatever, and doing saunas and everything else like that. And I get this whole well-being thing about it all being neutral and natural and everything else like that. But I think the positivity from waste like collection is about bringing colour to sustainability. And it is a very important trend, but actually I can sit there in my calm mode and the colours that make me calm and make you calm and make different people means that I think it was just more the fact that I think autumn, winter is a really hard time where we don't have any natural daylight. Everything is grey and beige and you're in the shops and you're researching things. And it's like, actually, I love the fact that I walk down Pottergate in Norwich and it's a graffiti wall and it's just crazy. And for other people, they go, oh, that's horrible. But I'm like, actually, that brings me joy. What brings you joy? And it's finding the joy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. I absolutely love that. So if people want to come and find you and look at your gorgeous jewellery and find out more about colour and dopamine dressing, where should they come?
My main place is Instagram. So it's at One of a Kind Club. I also have my own website, which is www.oneofakindclub.com. Sign up to my newsletter, you get a discount. Self-plug there because I want more people on my email list.
Absolutely, on you go. All the links will be in the show notes. Don't worry about that.
Yeah, and also on Facebook, I have. I don't do that much on Facebook, but I'm on there. But I also do have a Facebook group called One of a Kind Club, which is a big community, and it's a mission where you can be yourself. You can talk about real life, about being authentic, about being a mum on the run and wanting to throw a necklace on just to like get you out the door or putting your earrings on, as you say. So, but do reach out. I'm always on my DMs. Like, although I'm a growing business, it is about that personal contact and connection.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's an absolute joy to talk to you today.
All the links will be in the show notes, but I don't let anybody go without answering one last question. And that is, what joy legacy would you like to leave behind?
Self-belief with colour. So actually getting more people, and whether that be colour psychology being taught at school or people going, Carol, she was the colour queen and she turned her life around. So just bringing joy with colour.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you've definitely got me thinking about colour in a different way. I'm like looking around me thinking about where I've used it, how I've used it, why I pick certain colours, and the little flashes of colours that I bring into my wardrobe on a daily basis. So thank you so much. It has literally been a joy speaking to you.
Thank you.
Welcome to the Joy Work Show, the podcast that goes beyond the surface of business, right to the heart, to explore the real joy and the stories behind success. Not just the moments of celebration, but the challenges that pave the way for them. Hiya, I'm Diane, and here we know that joy isn't just about the good times. Often, the greatest joy comes right after the greatest challenge. And today's episode feels like a real celebration of joy in its most colourful, expressive form. I'm joined by Carol Robinson, the founder of One of a Kind Club, a jewellery brand built on colour, confidence and making people smile. Carol spent 20 years in advertising before taking the leap into building her own business and her dream life, driven by a desire to create something joyful, expressive and deeply personal. In this conversation, we talk about self-acceptance, motherhood, identity, and the power of colour in how we feel and how we show up. She shares her journey through corporate life, personal loss, and the moments that led her to choose a path that is rooted in authenticity and self-expression. We also explore colour psychology, dopamine dressing, and why wearing what lights you up is never a frivolous choice. This episode is about creativity, courage, and giving yourself permission to be seen exactly as you are. But as always, it's so much better to hear from the guests themselves. So let's go.